unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Team Canelo Alvarez says they are down to face, guess who? Artur Beterbiev. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Sign up for ESPN Plus using my link. It does help the channel if you guys use my link. Now, Canelo also has a fight week, and his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, had some very interesting things to say. So I have it written down, and Canelo's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, says that obviously if they get past Sergey Kovalev this weekend, they have no problem staying at light heavyweight and fighting unified champion Artur Beterbiev. They said, quote, Sergey Kovalev is better than Artur Beterbiev, and we're fighting Kovalev on Saturday, so why wouldn't we fight Artur Beterbiev? Listen, I want to break this down, give my thoughts. I think the walls are closing in for Team Canelo and Canelo Alvarez in general. And let me explain to you guys why I'm saying this. I think, obviously, a statement like that, the way Beterbiev looked, the prospects of Canelo winning a title at light heavyweight, all of it sounds good. But we're getting to a place in boxing where I feel like there's a lot of clout chasing going on. A lot, like a whole lot, where people will say things in boxing, trainers, fighters, promoters, and realistically speaking, it doesn't sound likely to manifest anytime soon and or happen. So basically you're saying it to make headlines, clout chasing. That, that's really by definition kind of what clout chasing is. Like if somebody is mentioning your name, this, that, and the third, and you have really no intentions of doing what you say you're going to do, I liken it to the people on the internet, the Twitter fingers and the keyboard warriors and stuff like that. People will say X, Y, and Z, oh, I'll do this and this and this. And they say it online, but, they don't plan on actually doing this. They'll go to, I don't know, just The Rock's page or Nate Diaz and say, oh, Nate Diaz, you're a punk, blah, blah, blah. But they don't run up on Nate Diaz. You get what I'm saying? So they don't run up on a West Coast G, on a West Coast gangster. You get what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. And that's kind of what's happening in boxing a lot, like this clout chasing. Like, just people saying stuff that doesn't really sound likely. Now, of course, I would love to see Canelo versus Artur Beterbiev, but I have a few problems with that. First of all, why is him and his team, why are they so interested in this new division? Light heavyweight. You have people at 160. Some people think there's unfinished business with Gennady Golovkin. I know DAZN wants that fight. You have that fight there. But more importantly for me, you have Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade and Jermall Charlo. And the reason these fights are important is because the stylistic threat that they both present to Canelo. And it is appearing like Canelo does not want to fight an in-prime black fighter. I think the reason being is an in-prime black fighter, undefeated, momentum, 2 division champions like Demetrius Andrade and Charlo, who are both champions at 154 and now champions at 160. I think it's because of the style. They both fight different. However, they both have some, things that could plague Canelo. I really feel that. I think Andrade, obviously tall. Charlo's taller than Canelo, so that right there. They're both taller and longer and rangier than Canelo. 2, they're athletic. You know, they have a certain rhythm to it. Canelo, it seems like, he's a great fighter, and nobody's taking that away from him, but he's found a home for Eastern European fighters: Liam Smith, Amir Khan, Matthew Hatton, Ryan Rhodes, who else? Sergey Kovalev from Russia, Eastern European. And they've even talked about fighting like Caleb Smith. Now, Caleb Smith, if you think about it, he probably has the least, he probably has the closest out of the European fighters from 60 to 75 that Canelo could possibly face. Caleb Smith has kind of a different style, you know? And I'm not trying to stereotype saying every Eastern European fights exactly the same way, but there's certain things. And Caleb Smith almost has somewhat of like some dog to him, it looks like, and somewhat of kind of like an American-ish style. Like he throws, like he turns his punches over nicely and stuff. And especially like the black fighters with that kind of American style, athletic guys who can match him and have some sense about him, ring IQ. It seems like Canelo's team does not simply want to fight that type of style. So I have certain questions like that. Canelo became the franchise champion, then they try to do it to Lomachenko. It's just a bad look. I wonder why Canelo is so apprehensive to fight Charlo or Demetrius Andre, and it's making me want to see the fight more. And why is it this newfound path and journey for a man who said earlier this year, Canelo, not ego, Canelo said, I want to sit at middleweight and unify the division. I don't know for the life of me how come nobody who has been at Canelo's media day, actually I do know why. The answer is because a lot of old media people refuse to ask the tough questions. But no one at Canelo's media day, no one at Canelo's fight week this week is asking and requesting answers to certain things. Canelo himself said this year that he wanted to unify middleweight. What has changed? Charlo, the only thing that's changed is Charlo became a champion because Canelo refused to fight him. So the WBC franchised him. Other than that, Andre's still undefeated. Charlo's still undefeated. You know, Golovkin got a belt again. Like, what has changed where Canelo's mission, where he said to ESPN Deportes and several media outlets earlier this year, he was going to fight Jacobs in a unification, and he wanted to stick around and become the first Mexican with all the belts at middleweight. That's what he said. Now all of a sudden that seems not to be the game plan. And in my opinion, what's changed is poor planning from Golden Boy and Canelo and his team, and the belts kind of got dispersed and things weren't handled in a certain way. They spent time dilly-dallying with Kovalev trying to make the fight when they were trying to make it for the Mexican dates for September, and they failed. They wouldn't give Kovalev the amount of money that he wanted, that he was requesting. So Kovalev was like, man, fuck this. I'm about to fight my mandatory Anthony Yarde because I don't have no more time to waste. I got to either fight you or him, and y'all playing with the money. So Kovalev went on to fight Anthony Yarde and was nearly stopped in that fight, right? And as a result, he tried to then move to option B, which was his mandatory that he knew about, which was Sergey Deryevchenko. And he had less time to negotiate with him because he was trying to negotiate with Kovalev. And you negotiate, get nowhere. Kovalev goes to Yarde, and then you stuck giving up the September Mexican date, and you have no opponent. So that was foolish, poor planning. Then you move to Deryevchenko. He says you lowball him, and that fight breaks up. So your team makes a deal with the IBF, and this will make Canelo mad and release a series of tweets. And your team says, hey, if we can't, fine-tune this fight and get this Deryevchenko mandatory out the way and negotiated by X, Y, and Z Monday or whatever, then we'll just relinquish the belt or strip us. And that's what happened. IBF followed their rules, and they stripped Canelo. So now that belt went to Triple G, which he really didn't beat Derevchenko, but they say he did. It went to the winner of Derevchenko versus Triple G, which the judges gave it to Triple G, right? And Charlo became a WBC champion. Now, all of a sudden, the plan is different for Canelo, and he doesn't want to stay at middleweight and fight the actual middleweights because it's going to be a lot harder with the belts dispersed, and he's going to have to go through Charlo and Andrade to become a champion who is undisputed. You know, I don't think he's tripping off Golovkin because he already has a win over him. So to me, it's a bad look because the only thing that's changed is Charlo has a belt now, and you know, you have to go through Andrade, who still has a belt. Triple G refused to fight Andrade as well. So, you know, to be undisputed. Now, all of a sudden, Canelo keep talking about, I want to fight at light. I was born ready for light heavyweight. Why do you want to fight at light heavyweight so bad? You know, this is a shorter person. He's kind of shorter for 160 and 168, let alone light heavyweight. Now his team is claiming that they are down to fight Artur Beterbiev. Seeing is believing, because if Beterbiev was the easier fight, let's just use some common sense and basic conventional wisdom. Put your thinking caps on. If Beterbiev is an easier opponent than Kovalev, first of all, I don't know who really believes that. I talked to Andre Ward. I talked to Jared Hurd just last weekend in Reno. And it's pretty unanimous that a lot of people feel Canelo's the favorite. And one thing that professional fighters and me, myself, I was one of the first people to say, is Kovalev, we know he's not the crusher anymore. He doesn't look like it. Andre Ward put out the blueprint. So that alone, I don't know who believes that at this point in time, Beterbiev is less dangerous than Kovalev, right? We almost seen Kovalev get stopped in his last fight against a guy who doesn't even spar. He spars with his trainer, who's not even his weight, who looks lighter than him, right? Beterbiev just walked through an Olympian's best punches, a guy who stopped and ended the career of Adonis Stevenson. And Beterbiev, like a machine, like a unit, like a tank, like the Terminator, I'll be back, walked through all of his punches. So again, what Canelo's team is saying doesn't sound believable in the least. Doesn't sound the least bit believable. You're saying Kovalev is better. You could say he has a better resume, whatever. But at this current juncture, at this current point in time, I don't know who believes that Kovalev is more dangerous to any light heavyweight, more dangerous than Beterbiev. I don't know any expert that would say that. So I don't believe Canelo's team when they say that Kovalev is better. You could say Kovalev's more accomplished, but yeah, he's more accomplished because he fought better names than Beterbiev as a pro. But he also got stopped. He also got more mileage on him as a result of, having an advanced career fighting the B-Hops and the Andre Wards twice and the Leader Alvarez twice and Jean Pascal twice. So he also got more miles. So once again, I don't know anybody who can honestly, in their heart of all hearts, say they truly believe that Beterbiev is less of a factor or less dangerous than Kovalev at the point. So, that's not even believable, not even close to being believable from Team Canelo. So we know Beterbiev is definitely more dangerous at this point. And Beterbiev also beat Kovalev twice in the amateurs. So once again, Beterbiev definitely has the momentum right now, not Kovalev. And once again, if you think about it, if you thought Beterbiev shit was sweet or he was easier than Kovalev, and Kovalev was a better fighter than him overall, even at this point, then why wouldn't you fight Beterbiev first? Why would you go straight to the toughest guy if that's what you really believe? Because we know that that's cap. You don't believe that. You don't believe at this point, at this juncture, he's the best. So, like I said, the walls are closing in for Team Canelo, in my opinion. Canelo's a great fighter. He's one of the faces of boxing, but them putting him on an app, I feel like his fights have gotten smaller, and the build-ups and stuff, and just the fight weeks don't feel the same because he's trapped on an app. But beyond that, the pressure is on. And I don't think, if you really analyze this and break it down, I don't think it makes too much sense to do a couple fights at 160, have a non-really respected fight at 168, claim you're a 3-division champion off of that, not fight the best names at 160 and 68 at all, and then try to hop up and stay at light heavyweight. It looks like you're camping out, like you're hiding out. And, you know, if he fights Beterbiev, then I don't know, that's a dangerous fight. But once again, another Russian fighter. When will Canelo fight another? And don't say Danny Jacobs, because Danny Jacobs, that's my guy, but Danny Jacobs had been stopped before. He had lost to Golovkin, even though I thought he won that fight. And his recent performances were a bit different. There were, you know, the Derevyanchenko fight. Some people thought he rushed. He won these fights, but Luis Cuba Arias was doing a lot of shit talking, so he was a little bit overly emotional. So he couldn't get the stoppage, and he was kind of like rushing his work a little bit, you know, things like that. Then he fought Stylistic. I thought he won, but some people were even claiming that Jacobs lost that fight. And then Derevyanchenko, just like he gave Triple G a tough fight, he gave Jacobs a tough fight. And Derevyanchenko, you know, some people were saying Jacobs lost that fight. I gave that fight to Jacobs as well, but those were his recent performances leading up to the Canelo. Charlo, you can't say the same, because Charlo he had a tough fight with Kovalev, but then nearly stopped him in the final round after watching his brother, you know, get robbed. And Brandon Adams was super crafty. I was at that fight too. He was super crafty and he was moving a lot. And he looked like he knew Charlo was too big and strong, so he was just trying to be as squirrely as possible. That's why when I talked to Freddie Roach post-fight, Freddie Roach said he might go down to 154. So Charlo has looked different in his fight. He looks strong and he looks, you know, just different fighter. Plus he beat J-Rock, who's a unified champion at 54 now, his old division, things like that. Andrade can't get no work. He's an Olympian. So to me, it looks like Canelo is not trying to fight the certain styles. And it's looking like black American styles. But even if you look at 68, there's some other really good fights, not even just black fighters. And the reason I keep saying black fighters too, for the record, is because Charlo and Andrade both, they were all champions at 54. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.